You're 60 miles from anywhere, and today I'm going to talk about writing. So that's part of what I do for my work. I work from home. I'm a freelance writer. I'm trying to get into travel writing. And part of my podcast is to keep myself motivated and keep myself focused and distribute some of the knowledge that I've picked up over the last couple of years and even beyond about writing fiction, writing for companies, writing SEO work, writing copy for online companies, you name it. If you'd like to support this channel, you can go to my website, which is 60milesfromanywhere.com, and click on the Buy Me a Coffee link. Also, I'm an affiliate with Origin USA, which sells really great high-quality boots that are all made in the USA in Maine. Every little piece of those boots are made in the USA. And I've got a pair myself. I've got the American Bison boots with the big lugs, and I've been wearing those for about the last 2 years. They fit great. They're a little bit on the spendy side, but I do have a 10% off coupon if you want to use the link on my 60 Miles From Anywhere website. You can click on that and you can enter promotion code Harris10 for 10% off. And let's see, I'm just going to start now with changing focus with freelancing. Let's begin. For the most part, we're expected to get an education, then chuck all of that out the window to work for an employer who will train us with an entirely different skill set, bestow upon us a schedule, a wage, whatever benefits don't cut into their profit margins. We're supposed to take pride in being worked to death by somebody else as long as they get the glory and the gold. We're in charge of our lives at home, but never at work. And even at home, if the police or some middle management code enforcer from our HOA shows up, we're also reminded of just how in charge our lives of we really are. Whenever somebody asks what I do for a living, I provide just enough information to justify my existence in polite society. The short answer I often give is that I write content for websites. This pays the bills and child support. It isn't much, but it helps get by. It's content mill work. The long answer about what it means to work for a content mill is that whenever somebody Googles a question or does a search, the search engine pours through the vastness of what is published on the internet, searching for keywords, phrases, and metadata in search of what is statistically aligning best with what you're looking for. For every website that Google comes up with, there has probably been someone like me who wrote the copy for that website. There's a good chance that, like me too, they don't even know much about what they wrote. They just included enough key terms and related information, probably ripped off from another website, press release, or general knowledge, to get locked into Google's tractor beam of relevance to make it onto page 1 of your search results. The information is secondary to driving web traffic to the site. That's why all the medical sites strongly suggest consulting your doctor, and all the legal sites say to contact the attorney. It's a call to action, as they call it. But it's also a get-out-of-jail-free card when it comes to liability. It's called SEO, or Search Engine Optimization. A client requests a bunch of keywords to be packed into a blog post so Google looks for it. Length of the article also weighs heavy on whether or not the post lists on page 1. There's a saying that if you ever need to hide a dead body where it's never going to be found, put it on page 2 of your Google search results. As long as the page keeps listing as page 1, the customer is happy and I get paid. Not a lot, but I get some money for writing something that sounds convincing enough to a search engine to put on your screen. I've written legal posts, medical posts, tourism for places I've never been, product descriptions for things I've never held. And the poetic justice of this is really nobody but Google is even reading any of it. I actually beat myself up quite a bit about that last part. That isn't to say the client doesn't read the posts. They usually read them, put them through their SEO checker, and judge whether or not I'm going to get them placed on page 1. Most of the fuss I've gotten has been needs to use active voice, change all passive voice to active, because the SEO checkers figured out that Google likes when you're doing something rather than if something is or isn't. There are times I really hate writing this stuff, especially for the law firms. Blood-sucking bastards that they are. Last night I hit a wall. I struggled for 6 hours to write one 2,000-word post for a law firm. I had 3 more due by 10 p.m., and it wasn't happening. There's a scene in that movie Shine where the main character is playing a Rachmaninoff piece, and all he hears is the keys hitting wood as he plays the notes. There's no music. Then, spoiler alert, his brain short-circuits and he collapses from the intensity of the experience. But he is no longer playing music, he's just hitting keys. Last night, that's how it felt to write another legal post nobody was going to read, and nobody is going to buy for at least another month. But of course, everything is due right now. It's just word salad with a bunch of keywords, active voice, and pandering to a goddamn algorithm for views. So I waved off the other 3. Recently, I've been reading about Freelance and how it increases your success in the field. One of the things that keeps coming up is diversifying your income stream. Somehow I felt like writing for content mills is polishing brass on the Titanic. The jobs are coming less frequently and more associated with what makes the algorithms happy instead of thoughtful, compelling content of what actual people might read. I'm considering branching out into other media that allows me to write stuff I want to write, stuff I would want to read even, and somehow get paid to do it. I think it's the only way that makes sense for the long term when it comes to making a living doing this. So when people need the short answer of, I write copy for websites, it doesn't cover what I really do. I'm also editing a book I wrote. I'm working on establishing myself as a freelance writer, more specifically a travel writer. I was published in summer of 2021 in a magazine called Big Life Magazine. And I hope to get published in some more magazines on down the road. The book that I wrote, I took advantage of the lockdowns for COVID, and it wound up being 2,000 pages. So I'm in the process of editing that and whittling it down. There's no money in that, and it's likely that the way that traditional publishing has gone, nobody is even going to publish it. So for the last 2 years, I've basically worked on a gigantic process, and a lot of people would consider that a waste of time. For me, the experience was cathartic. It helped me channel my thoughts. It helped me channel my emotions in a really crazy time that everybody was going through, and my life was pretty messy at the time too. So I think it was good to write, regardless of if a traditional publisher or one of the big 5 pick it up. There's also the option of publishing it myself. So I've actually been reading a lot about lately how traditional publishing is on the way out. The publishers, they used to help an author edit, produce, publish, and market their work. The writers got paid pretty good for it too. So nowadays everything's kind of a mess. If you do get an advance, it's not that much. The publisher expects the least amount of work to edit and get the book perfect for publication. Once that's done, they expect the writer to do their own marketing. A lot of publishing contracts are given to either celebrities with a fan base. All those tell-all autobiographies are usually ghostwritten by some schmuck like me, or just tag-alongs with popular intellectual properties, themes, trends, some sure thing that's going to make a profit. I'm a published author who needs to do his own marketing and sales, but has to figure out how to dedicate more resources like time and money to that entire process. I'm establishing myself as a freelancer, and I did publish a book back in 2014 myself. So people say, are you an author? Yes, I am an author. Did I get it published by Simon & Schuster or Scholastic or any of those places? No, I didn't. I published myself. And you can find my book on Amazon.com. It's Clinton A. Harris, and the book is called Song of the Cinder. And it's kind of my kitchen sink novel. It's a steampunk, alternate history, diesel punk adventure story. And it's got hollow earth theory. It's got chthonic gods at the center of the earth, werewolves, vampires, immortal samurais. It's got everything but the kitchen sink. So it was a lot of fun to write, and the people that have read it they really liked it a lot. So that's my shill for my book too. But when people complain that movies are nothing but remakes, lately the same thing is true of books. It's either a postmodern rehash of some book we read when we were growing up with some kind of other character that's emphasized upon and expounded upon and dragged out into some other kind of Mary Sue character, or some kind of Kirkland brand copies of successful series like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or The Hunger Games. Ad infinitum. You'd think it'd be easy just to write something like that, but usually a publisher already has somebody in mind to write this kind of stuff. They usually know them, they're a friend of a friend or a family member, they've got a good track history of writing content, kind of like I do for these websites and these companies, and they're just kind of like a writer that mills these things out. They make a wage off of that. They're happy doing it, maybe. Maybe they're like me. Maybe they just feel that those keys are hitting fingers and it's not making music anymore. Traditional publishing is circling the drain, especially with magazines. So the interesting thing is that the best way to make money is to just do it yourself. Run your own publishing house. I mean, why not if you're going to have to do all the marketing yourself anyway? So I've been researching other things lately. Podcasting, which hopefully you're listening to right now. YouTube channels. There's some great stuff out on YouTube. Very narrative works. The cinematography that some of these people throw into their videos and they do voiceovers is beautiful. And I would love to start doing that once my learning curve's going to pick up with the podcasting. You can monetize these things too. People are making money off of these. And, at the beginning of every podcast, I shill the two streams that I've got, which is the boots, which I do like the product. And I also have the Buy Me a Coffee link on my website too. This stuff, it can be a labor of love, but it would also be nice to actually make a little bit of money off of it too. I'll be honest. The thing is I've come to realize that nobody is going to open those gates for me, so I have to do it myself. Gone are the days where someone would give you a 6-figure advance and say, write the best book that you can write, and then you do it, and then you're famous, whatever. Right? Not that that ever happened very often to anybody, but nowadays advances are low 5 figures, and when you put 2 years of work into a book, and you get maybe $5,000-$6,000 advance, and then you might have to pay some of that back if the book doesn't sell out to that amount. It's rough, and it's very discouraging. And that's probably a big reason why so many of these books out there that you see at your brick and mortar stores are mostly corporate produced books. And I know for me, the last couple of times I've gone to like a Barnes & Noble, I've spent more time in the records section than I have in the book section, just because everything looks the same. Everything is formulaic. There's nothing that really catches my attention or my imagination. It just kind of seems like nothing's really changed in the last 20 years, and they've found a formula and they've just run with it. We're living in some strange times because of this. It used to be that writing was the horse that pulled the cart of advertising and merchandise. I mean, if you bought a magazine, you read it for the articles, and then the ads popped out at you off the page, and you thought, oh, maybe I need this car, or maybe I need to buy this washing machine, or wow, look at those shoes, look at that watch. And now things seem to be the other way around. People are buying the magazine for the Omega watches, and they're buying the magazine for like the pretty pictures of the cruise line destinations and those kind of things, and then skimming through the stories. There's a lot of fluff out there, very few narrative pieces anymore, and most of that stuff is picked in-house or the editor knows somebody. So the whole thing is crazy. I got to say, too, that the learning curve on all this is very steep. Today alone, I must have just sat there and waffled back and forth about recording my first podcast for the channel. I tried to a couple of years ago, and it just didn't pan out. It just felt like I wasn't getting any exposure. The highest number of downloads that I got was 70 downloads. And to be honest with you, I think the whole thing was very awkward. Most of the time I was just wondering how I could get the acoustics in my room to deaden enough to where it didn't echo every time I talked. It was a big problem, and it just became frustrating. And unfortunately, I got out of my comfort zone, but I bit off more than I could chew. And it wound up just kind of overwhelming me and depressing me because I kept thinking, why is it that everybody else can do this stuff and make it look so easy and I can't? Well, the fact of the matter is, it's not easy. You have to take little bits and pieces, take baby steps, work your way through it. And that can be very intimidating, can be exhausting. And when it doesn't pan out, it's very frustrating. So I got to say that all of this makes better sense than hoping I can approach things with this dying model of industry as traditional publishing and expect success out of that. That's more like that dream where people say, when I win the lottery, I'm going to do this or that. There really is no winning the lottery. And even if you do win the lottery, it's no guarantee that you're going to make a career out of that. It's not like things that used to be 30, 50 years ago. You know, we no longer have Maxwell Perkins out there working on people's really sloppy manuscripts and carving them into something that's beautiful and time-honored or whatever. They expect the perfect thing to come out immediately. And I think that all of us can work in a different direction. We can use the resources that we've got. You know, for me, I went out and a couple of years ago, I got this audio equipment so I could record podcasts. And I've been so busy since COVID hit and a lot of changes in my life that have happened that I just haven't had a chance to do it. And so recently I just kind of thought, you know what? The best success that you can get comes from following opportunity instead of expecting something to just drop in your lap. And I had the opportunity to do this stuff. I like to talk, I like to write, and the two things just kind of go together pretty well. So if you're listening, then just know that you're not alone out there. It's an uphill battle a lot of the time, but there's some good resources out there. There's a great community of people that are like you, that want to share their stories, that they have ambition and they have drive. They just kind of feel like sometimes that world just isn't for them. And why does everybody else keep getting success and getting ahead when they're down here busting their butts and nothing's happening? So just keep hanging in there, stay strong, keep putting in the good work, leave your ego at the door, and just try to keep doing what you can, one day at a time, little steps, and you've got a good chance. So that's it for tonight. I've recorded 4 podcasts today, and I think I'm going to try to get some sleep. Thanks for listening.